Hey everybody, it's Master Tim here again. And I want to talk to you about good exercises versus bad exercises. Okay, now many of you know that I really try hard not to label exercises as blanket statements as good or bad. What I really try to do is figure out what they are good for or potentially what they might be bad for. So even some exercises that are generally good might be bad in some situations. So for instance, if you're trying to improve your squat strength or the size of your quads, doing a bench press might not be a good idea. It might be a bad exercise for that. Okay? So there's no transfer there. Now, also, there's the obvious, and that is, does it violate our structure? So, meaning, is it going to cause injury? For an example, you could be doing a curl and having your arm like this. Now, if the weight is trying to push you here and you got something stopping you here and it's trying to break your elbow like that, well, that might be a bad exercise, okay? However, it's not the position that's bad, it's how the force is interacting with that joint. So let's take the same situation I got here. Now, let's say the weight is trying to push me up out of this. Now, that's not necessarily a bad exercise. That could be good. So it's not the position. And in context, it's how the force interacts with the joint. Now, that brings me to the next point, and that is context. We have to take what exercise we're talking about and then the context of which we're placing it. So for an example, and it's kind of an extreme example, but it does a pretty good job of driving home the point. Is it always bad to pull someone's hair? Okay, now think about it. Most people, when you say, I went and pulled that person's hair, you're thinking, wow, you're a jerk, right? It's not a good thing. But what if it's to save someone's life? What if it's the only thing that you can grab to keep them from falling off a cliff? In that context, it's going to be a very good thing because you saved the person's life. Again, an extreme example, but a lot of times in this fitness industry, things are taken to extremes. Could be less extreme examples in fitness. Now, for instance, would a lunge be better at improving running performance than, say, power cleans, which look nothing like running? So you would think, based on the motion, that a lunge might be better. However, a lot of it depends on how the muscle is trained. So in a lunge, typically it's done as a slow, controlled movement, which we know as in running performance or sprinting specifically, we have to have fast twitch muscle fiber. So in that context, cleans might be better exercise than running, even though it doesn't look anything like running. Another example is a lot of people say machines are less functional than free weights. Well, in what context? Okay, so if you're learning how to balance on a beam, the best thing might be there is balancing on a beam. But if you're learning how to use your muscles and get them stronger and get your mind and your muscles connected together, machines can be very, very functional. For example, there's been a lot of research that shows in elderly it increases balance and power, which a lot of people would say, okay, well, machines are not functional because they're not real life movements. Well, we got to think about the context of the transfer. Now, keep in mind, exercises don't transfer. The adaptations to those exercises are what gives us the opportunity for transfer. Can you get stronger on a leg extension with your quads? Yes. Okay. So now, does that mean the only time we can use that strength is on that machine? No. Do you think that that newly developed quad strength might help somebody get up out of a chair, an elderly person or somebody who's been sedentary for a very long time? That transfer, that strength we gain could probably help us with that. So we have to keep things in context, okay? So again, when you're talking about good exercises versus bad exercises, ask yourself, in what context? Rarely is there an exercise that would be a blanket bad exercise or a blanket good exercise. For instance, squats are always seen as good, but with somebody with some really bad knees, squats might not be very good for them. However, a bad exercise, such as, say, behind the neck pull downs, are generally bad, and it might hurt someone's shoulders based on the forces that are dealing with that, like the tricep example I gave there. So again, always consider the context of which the exercise is being used before you make judgment.